2/3 of hospitals are cutting their staff in the state of Texas. 243 hospitals, I should say, and 2/3 of every restaurant employee is out of work. And while that's going on, the city of McLendon-Chisholm is adding more people to the payroll, growing government. It's time for some straight talk, McLendon-Chisholm. Yes, that's right. It is Friday, and it is great to be back with you again. And today is a topic that is really been a long time coming, because we've seen what's happened over the many weeks and months lately of what's happening with the right in the city of McLendon-Chisholm. Well, right now, what we're seeing is the acme of hubris. We have a mayor just demanding that the city grow, and that the staff grow, because the more people under him, the bigger he is, and the more he likes the idea of having a big city. I believe that government the job of government is to serve the people, not the people serving government. But instead, what we have now is people serving the government. And so what happened is on this agenda item. Let me put it up for you. So there were two agenda items, 6.9 and 6.10. One was the first one was to add equipment for the fire department. And so the city council passed that. And the second is adding 2 full-time firefighters to fill safer positions, and to add a new shift covering 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., which the fire chief argues is the busiest time, there has been a sudden surge in the call volume, and I will speak specifically to that. But let me let you hear what the chief has to say about this new position and what they're trying to do there.
We would have that three-man engine company. So Monday through Friday during the week, that would get us to that 4-man engine company per se, because I'm that extra body. I'm that 4th body. So when we pull up on scene, we're able to meet that 2 guys going in and still have 2 guys outside at the ready if need be, because where the 2 in, 2 out rule comes from. So that is our peak hours when it comes to our calls. That's 348 calls. This was from October 1 of 2019 to December 31st. 348 calls during that time. So you can see from that graph, this would help cover those peak hours.
Chief, did you say October or January?
January 1, 2019 to December 31st, 2019 for a full year. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, so they've gone away from going away from the fiscal year, which if they based their numbers on a fiscal year, then you would see that the call volume is actually dropping. Now, since they kind of threw me for a loop on this, so I've made another open records request with the county to get the latest dispatch numbers. But the bottom line is, what the fire chief is trying to convince the city council of is that there's a greater need for us to have these new positions. And so this is kind of the crux of what he talks about. And he talks about how adding the new positions will actually make it easier for us to respond to fires. Listen to the fire chief on this.
The last major structure fire in Kingsbridge, we had water on the fire within 8 minutes and 24 seconds. Having that 3rd body, it reduces those numbers down into the 5s, low 6s.
Yeah, so the adding another firefighter will actually decrease the response time, is what you just heard. So in Kingsbridge, what he's saying about the Kingsbridge fire, remember, the city of McLendon-Chisholm, even though what he's going to be saying something in a little bit, that since he's been fire chief, there have been 8 structure fires. But no one asks the obvious question: how many of those are inside the city of McLendon-Chisholm? Because the city of McLendon-Chisholm still averages one structure fire per year. We are continuing to pay for fire service for those outside of our city who contribute nothing to their fire safety. And the mayor and city council have no plan to curb that. And that's something that we should look at and you should consider as a taxpayer. You should be asking yourself, okay, so where is the money coming from? They're going to answer that question. But I'll give you the inside story. So the Kingsbridge fire, what was interesting about the Kingsbridge fire is that it was on Super Bowl Sunday. Kingsbridge fire was on Super Bowl Sunday it was before the Super Bowl, when the firehouse was full of firefighters because they were all coming together to celebrate the Super Bowl and watch the Super Bowl together. So the station was well staffed, and they got to that fire in 8 minutes and 24 seconds. But he's saying that if we add more people to the payroll, that we will actually get to fires in the 5 to 6 minute range, low 6 minute range. How? How do you get faster if you have more people? That doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. But that's what he's talking about. And I want to ultimately, this is about money, because as a fiscal conservative, these are things that concern me, and these are the questions that we should be asking. And so it really comes down to the SAFER grant. Let's start with the SAFER grant, because the SAFER grant is kind of where we're going to get ourselves in trouble. We're about to get ourselves in major trouble. The SAFER grant is basically providing $1,008,000 worth of service to the community. Now, how that works is, when I was mayor, we applied for this SAFER grant because we were starting a fire department, and what we were asking for was 6 full-time equivalent staff members. Now, as mayor, what I was proposing was that there would be no actual full-time people, so we wouldn't have to pay benefits, but we would be looking and going to other neighboring departments, Dallas, Fort Worth, and these other fire departments where every firefighter has a second job because they work 1 day on and 2 days off. That's how all fire departments work. And that's how the city of McLendon-Chisholm's fire department now works. 1 day on, 2 days off. So what the SAFER grant is providing is a station manned by 2 individuals, 2 full-time equivalent individuals, but it doesn't have to be 1 individual, 2 actual individuals. You can have 32 people filling those roles in part-time capacities. The idea there, the reason we went after the SAFER grant was because it enabled us to change from a part-time fire department where people were not at the fire station at night, to a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week fire department every day of the year. And so that was our goal. Well, what happened instead is the fire chief has hired full-time employees. And these full-time employees have benefits. And now what he wants to do is add to these benefits. He wants to add to these full-time employees. I think there were 4 full-time employees, and then everybody else was part-time or volunteer. Here's how the SAFER grant works and how it's broken down. And so basically what it provides is 3 years, $336,000, but it's broken down by the federal portion and a city portion. So the federal portion is basically for the first 2 years is going to be $252,000, and then the city would match 25% of that of the 336, which is $84,000. So for those first 2 years, the city of McLendon-Chisholm's income from this SAFER grant is $252,000, and the city only has to put out $84,000. However, in year three, we are going to increase the obligation from the city to 65%, or $218,000, $218,400, where the federal portion is just $117,600. Now, we've already gone through year one, and as we speak, we are in the throes of year two. And so as the city starts looking at costs and budgets, we're going into a budget season. Now, the city council has not met on budget at all. By this time, when I was mayor, we had already had at least 2 budget meetings. Why? Because this is important, because we have to be ahead of the game. City of McLendon-Chisholm so far has not had any budget meetings. They don't really have any idea of what's happening. So you've got to understand that in year 3, the increase to the city is $134,400 that the city will have to make up. That's going to be next year. So we're going to be basically have a greater obligation of $134,000 over the previous year. Okay. Then on year 4, after the Safer Grant goes away, the city is going to have to add another $117,600 to match, to keep up with that $336,000. The thing about the Safer Grant and what appealed to us about the Safer Grant is that we didn't have to keep all of those positions. So since we were doing a part-time, our vision was a kind of a part-time fire department. Remember, the city of McLendon-Chisholm, and despite what the fire chief and mayor is saying, despite what they say, we have about 1 call per day and only 1 structure fire per year. Now, the last structure fire, as they said, was in Kingsbridge. They were there in 8 minutes and 24 seconds, and that house burned to the ground. We had a full-time fire department. We had Rockwall Fire Department, Heath Fire Department, I think Roy City Fire Department. We had a lot of fire departments putting water on that fire. It goes back to what I continue to say is that no matter, I don't care how many men you have, I don't care how good your fire department is, it will not prevent houses from going up in smoke. You want to save your family, make sure your smoke detectors are working. I don't want to go into the sticks too much on that. What I do want to emphasize here is the city of McLendon-Chisholm has a real budget issue coming up. They've got a real number problem coming up. And they are just completely blinded by the fact that they just raised our taxes. Your tax rate was raised this last tax season from an effective 12 cents to 15 cents. So they've increased your taxes, and they are now facing a greater need for income, even with raising your taxes. Now let me continue, because I give kudos because I'm a conservative. I will say when someone does something right, I will highlight that just as much as when people are doing things wrong. There are 2 members of City Council who have just earned my respect magnificently. Those 2 members are Lorna Kippett and Trudy Wosner, if I'm pronouncing her name correctly. And again, no one's told me how to pronounce her name. So if I'm mispronouncing it, I apologize. If I wanted to call Trudy Wosner a name, I would find a name and you would have no question that I'm making fun of her. It's kind of like Slick Willie Dahl, our empty suit on the city council. If I wanted to make fun of your name, I would. I'm not. So, Ms. Wosner, if that's not how you pronounce your name, tell me how I pronounce your name. But I want to tell you something. I appreciate what you did. I appreciate, Mrs. Kippett, what you did. You showed that you were actually concerned about the numbers. That, wait a minute, this doesn't seem to make sense. Now, I'm gonna show some highlights from what they did. So watch this. This is Lorna Kippett and Trudy Wosner.
I would like to suggest, and I don't know the ramifications of this, is we put it into the budget cycle for the next year, for 2021. Only because it's going to be a change in policy, because we're adding new personnel, and I want to see how it impacts the future funding for with the SAFER grant, because are we not going to have less, we're going to have less percentage of the SAFER grant next year. But what would be the impact of not doing it until October 1st?
Just filling those two, just continuing normal operations, which is 2 full-time on one full-time, part-time on B, on one shift, and another full-time, part-time.
So status quo.
It's status quo.
That's
absolutely.
Chief Simmons speaking.
Would it make it hard on you to wait until October 1st?
Nothing's hard on me. We'll adapt and overcome the way we've done since we started this thing. So no, man.
No is the answer. Will it make it hard on you? No is the answer. I love how he says, we'll overcome as we've always done. Overcome what? What are you overcoming? You have a fire department that is bloated already with full-time people who are making a full-time job. By the way, these are firefighters who have very, very, very little experience. You know where their experience is? McLendon-Chisholm. So we're not talking about people who are on who are seeing calls all the time. And most of the calls, and when I get this, when I get the numbers put together, and I'm really kind of keeping my powder dry on this for the next budget season so that I can do a show on this and highlight over the last, I've already got the last 7 fiscal years. I'm going to get the next 8 fiscal years by the time we have the budget season, so that you can see for yourself that what the fire chief is saying, what the mayor is trying to push on the city council is just absolutely bogus. There's no reason why we should be doing this. But I'm going to tell you this. One of the things that one of the positions, or excuse me, one of the video clips that I did not include is the fire chief talking to them about saying, yeah, we know that this isn't in the budget. We know, I know that this will be added to what we had asked for, but you know what we thought is, well, we could get these 2 positions and just see how it goes, and if we don't want them, we can get rid of them. Really? Try to get rid of. Just watch what happens if Lorna Kippett, Trudy Wosner have the audacity to suggest at the next budget meeting, do we really need those 2 full-time positions? Let's get rid of those. Let's go back to part-time. Just watch what happens. If they have the temerity, if they have the fortitude, the heart to actually look at the numbers and go, whoa, this was not a good decision. So there it is. And you have Trudy Wosner, you have Lorna Kippett. They are making some very, very poignant points. They are saying, look, you're just springing this on them. By the way, they were not prepared for this. So this kind of came out of the blue. This was on the agenda on Friday, and then they meet on Tuesday. And the staff report is very very anemic. People are losing their jobs, right? The economy is really on the brink if we're not careful and we don't get everybody back to work. And here they are. They're saying, hey, well, let's hire more people. What happens when they vote?
Any other questions for the chief? If there's not any other discussion, all in favor?
I mean, Chief, if we could wait, I'd rather wait.
Council, all I can do is present something to you and give you my explanations and justifications. And if you choose to wait, then what can I do? I'm not going to, I can't.
We came up with, another situation, throughout until October. We can readdress this, right?
Let me remind council, I hate to do this, we've made a motion, we've made a second, we either voted up or we voted down.
Under Robert's Rules of Order, which is how these meetings are being governed, once you go for a vote, discussion is over. He asked, is there any more discussion? Any more questions for the chief? All right, all in favor? Crickets. Nathan Hodges says, I think we should wait. Let's wait until budget season. Trudy Wosner chimes in, same thing. The chief says, okay, hey, look, I'm just giving you an option, and here's Mayor Short then has his own thing to say to them. So let's watch that.
But
Let me finish. I'm still speaking. I don't like the fact that and it is your vote. I think we're playing with, and I don't mean this to sound wrong because it sounds corny, I think we're playing with fire on waiting till October.
It's your vote, he says. Now, and shut up, Lorna. Shut up. I'm still talking. But he says this is your choice, counsel. Your choice. You get to make the decision. But notice he stopped the vote. No one voted yes, so he had to stop everything and say, okay, wait a minute. We need to think about this again. Okay, you guys need to reconsider. So reconsider, folks. So start reconsidering. And here is what Lorna Kippett has to say.
Revisit this. Are we still in the discussion phase? So I guess, how come you didn't present this in, say, September? Because nothing's really changed
Correct.
since September. So I'm just,
Call volume has changed. Call volume has increased since we
We don't
integrated.
have an assistant chief anymore.
So I don't have an assistant chief anymore. I did away with that position because he played a role to where he was available at times to go to calls. So we adjust that position to make sure now that we have a minimum two-man staffing, two firefighter staffing. My apologies, because we have no firefighters as well. Two firefighter staffing at all times, and that third is just that 7A, 7P for those hours. I've been assessing the department's needs now since October, and with everything we have going, station, equipment, vehicle maintenance, that's why it wasn't presented at that time.
Yeah, so that the call volume has changed, and we no longer have an assistant chief. So these are the reasons. So this is all of this just all of a sudden how this happened? No. And the other thing is this an emergency meeting? Is this an emergency session? No. But that's the way they're trying to create this idea that we just really need it. We just really need it. And so here's a good question that Nathan Hodges happens to ask.
So what is budget-wise, where are we on this?
This would come from surplus from this year's budget. I believe we had about $260,000 to $270,000 surplus this year. So we've used some of it for other decisions, but we still have the funds to cover it this year. And then, of course, if we kept it for next year's budget, we'd have to roll it into that new budget.
$260,000 in surplus. Hey, yippee! Hey, we're doing great. Well, a couple of things to think about that. And one of them happens to be this. This is as we all remember, the interest of encouraging further development of this area. The city council is willing to offer a commitment for development of wastewater line infrastructure as an incentive equal to the actual cost of the project, not to exceed $250,000 less developer contribution of $50,000. What are we talking about? Remember, we've talked about this development that the city council is basically paying a developer, is providing to a developer so that they can develop this little plot of land and create a strip center. This very disreputable strip center developer basically is going to be taking $200,000 of our little surplus. And how much are they asking for for the firefighters? I think $45,000. So we've got enough money. So look, this is government. If you have money, what's the number one rule? Spend it, and spend it fast. You don't want to keep a surplus. If you keep a surplus, well, then everyone's going to think, well, do you really need the money? Well, no, they need to make sure that they are at zero by the end of this year. When I was mayor, we had significant surpluses. And what did we do with that surplus? We put it toward our debt, the debt on that boondoggle of a city hall building that the city is sitting in. And so this is the question. And the question was asked by, I think it's Lorna Kippett. Again, Lorna Kippett asked the question, how does this proposal fit into the economic development plan for the strip center?
Jim, could I ask you a question? How does this fit into the economic development plan?
Well, that's still not defined. I mean, obviously, bringing in economic development is very appealing. The service businesses, I don't know the kind of revenue those generate, but, it's, I wouldn't say there is a plan out there now, but bringing in as many high revenue sources as possible. We appreciate your interest. That's exciting and a good, great first step.
Yeah, so that was December. They didn't have an economic development plan. They also created an economic development committee. Instead of it being just ad hoc, they made a formal committee. And they appointed people to be on the committee. So how's the plan look now? There is no plan. The committee hasn't met. They are still driving hard. The mayor is driving hard to give this developer $200,000 of your tax dollars. We also want to grow government, and we want to put more employees on the payroll. So Hodges was concerned. Remember what we saw? We saw no one wanted to vote in favor of this until the mayor got in there and he starts browbeating everybody. So after all of this and browbeating, here is the former mayor of McLendon-Chisholm, Nathan Hodges, the current council member of Nathan Hodges. Here's what he says.
Well, Mayor Mott, we as a city provide a few services. One of them's fire, and I hope that we all want to do it to the best of our ability. So, I'm in favor of it. All right.
So he's in favor of it now. Well, what about Dahl, William Dahl? I call him the Slick Willie. And what's interesting about, if you watch the city council meeting, watching William Dahl is like watching someone watch a tennis match. He says nothing, he contributes nothing, and he just votes. However the mayor says, Mayor, you vote yes. Yes, I vote yes. That's William Dahl. That's the summation. So let's remember, the mayor said, this is y'all's decision, your decision. I can't vote. I'm the mayor. I can't vote. I don't have a vote. Oh, wait a minute. Where's Jim Bloom? Oh, that's right. He's gone again. Jim Bloom is very rarely at city council meetings, and this was one of them that he was not present for. So what happens when they actually do vote?
All right. If there's no further discussion, got a motion, we've got a second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. I've got 2 ayes. All opposed?
Aye.
Aye. We now have a 50-50 split, which means I get the privilege of voting. I vote in favor of it.
Surprise! He votes in favor of it. In the midst of a pandemic, Mayor Short decides, hey, we got to look out for the public safety of others. Remember, this guy is a school resource officer. He wears a badge, a big badge, right? He's somebody who thinks we got to protect citizens, folks. If your answer is government, well then Keith Short's your guy. By all means, continue to support this demagogue and his sycophants like William Dahl, who sit there and just do whatever he says to do. Okay, sure, yeah, yes. Guys, a truly empty suit. 243 hospitals in Texas have laid employees off. 2/3 of restaurant employees all over Texas, all over the United States, are unemployed right now. And your mayor is seeing to it that, number one, his city staff is fully paid, and he's adding city staff. By the way, we have a city administrator and a city secretary. Do you know how many? Were there any furloughs that occurred to our city over this pandemic time, when everyone else is losing their job, when they had no city council meetings for the month of April? None, zero. So there's really not much for these employees, these bureaucrats to do, but they were there. They were serving. Who's being served? Who's being served? Are you being served? I would argue that you're not being served, that they're being served. Government is helping itself, and that's what government does. Government helps itself. And gosh, if you think that you can just hope that these things will change, well, good luck. Unfortunately, Nathan Hodges is unopposed in this next election, but the mayor actually has an opposition. The problem is he delayed the election to November. He pushed it off to November, which I think is great because in September, that's when the budget season happens. Here's what I predict. All right, I'm gonna share a little inside baseball. Scott Turnbull told me here's what he predicted, and I think he's right. I think Mayor Short is going to huff and puff and talk about all the things. We can't raise taxes. We can't raise taxes. But if you guys really want to raise taxes, you go ahead and do it. Because you know Nathan Hodges is going to raise taxes. You know William, the slick Willie Dahl is going to raise taxes. Jim Bloom, who's a firefighter, he's going to raise taxes. So there's no chance our taxes are not going to be raised because the city cannot afford to pay for this fire department. The SAFER grant is starting to go away and this next fiscal year, and they have to make some decisions. And the only way for them to do that is to raise your taxes. So get ready, folks. Or, hey, just don't forget, there is someone else running for mayor. Her name is Valerie Bodart. You might want to talk to her. She's a former military, Air Force, as my understanding. She might be someone you want to talk to and ask her what she thinks about all of this, how she would vote, how she would lead our city. Wouldn't it be nice to have someone who had integrity lead our city? I think so. I think it'd be a great thing. So I don't know about you, but I think it's time for a change in McLendon-Chisholm. So I guess we'll see you next week. I look forward to being with you, and I hope that you and your family stay safe through this incredible time in our nation's history. So until next week, we will see you then. I'm Bunker Bob Steinhagen. Have a great weekend.